My name is Andy, and together with the fantastic Consone Quartet, we're going to demonstrate some of the interesting composition techniques used in String Quartet No. 8 by Dmitri Shostakovich. String Quartet No. 8 was composed in 1960 while Shostakovich was visiting a city in East Germany called Dresden. And much of that beautiful city had been destroyed by British and American bombers in 1945 towards the end of the Second World War. Shostakovich dedicated this piece to the victims of fascism and war. When writing your piece, you could use this String Quartet No. 8 for inspiration in many ways. For example, you might be inspired by what the piece is about. Or you might be inspired by how Shostakovich incorporated musical ideas from different musical traditions and cultures in this piece. Or you might be inspired by some of the techniques Shostakovich used to compose it, and see if you can do the same. For example, a particular texture, harmony, or an approach to rhythm. Shostakovich's String Quartet No. 8 is split into 5 smaller pieces called movements. Let's have a listen to an extract from the second movement. How does this music make you feel? It's really fast and loud and quite harsh sounding. And some musicologists believe that this represents the bombardment of Dresden. This harsh, clashing sound is called dissonance music, and I'll talk more about that later on. Maybe your piece could be inspired by the sounds of war and conflict. For example, how could you represent the idea of soldiers marching, or gunshots, or fighter planes zooming past using a string quartet? Now let's have a look at some of the composition techniques Shostakovich used in this piece. This second movement introduces a number of different musical ideas which are used in different ways and developed throughout the movement. For example, take a look at this, played right at the start of the movement. This phrase is made up of 2 musical ideas. The first idea has this rhythm, and the second idea has this rhythm. Put together, this phrase is accompanied by chords played by the other instruments in the rest of the ensemble. Let's hear it all together. One way this phrase is brought back and developed in the rest of the movement is by each instrument having a turn at playing it, while the other 3 take on the accompanying roles. Shostakovich sometimes uses music from cultures and traditions other than his own to influence his music. For example, take a listen to this, which is introduced nearly halfway through the movement to create a contrast with the first section. Perhaps your piece could use musical ideas from more than one cultural tradition, or with contrasting styles of music that you like. For example, you could compose melodic ideas using notes from Indian raga and place that next to the rhythmic ideas from trap or grime music. Shostakovich's tune was inspired by traditional Jewish dance music. The melody lasts 26 bars, but like the first section, it also uses lots of repetitions. Notice that even though the melody is quite long, there are lots of times when musical ideas repeat. See if you can spot them. Why not pause the video here and think about the two different sections you've heard and the emotions they evoke. Later, Shostakovich introduces a third musical idea using a short motif made up of just 4 notes. These 4 notes use German language and notation, and they spell out the first initial and 3 letters of his surname in German, DSCH. And together it sounds like this. You hear this motif pop up every now and again, and sometimes being passed around all the different instruments in the quartet. This passing around of the motif between the different instruments is called imitation. Have a look at this passage. The durations of the motif have been shortened, so instead of each note being a semibreve like in the first example, they become a crotchet. The shortened motif is being passed around the ensemble. Let's hear the quartet play this very slowly first so we can identify the motif being passed around the instruments. Can you hear? It starts in the cello, then passed to the viola, then the second violin, then the first violin, and so on. Let's hear it now at its correct tempo. Like Shostakovich, why not try making a musical idea with just a few notes? For example, you could just take 4 pitches from a scale, or by taking the numbers on a dice, 1 to 6, and now give each number a different pitch. 1 could be C, 2 could be E flat, 3 could be G sharp, and so on. Now roll the dice and get your 4 pitches. Or maybe you want to use your initials like Shostakovich did. So can you come up with a way of getting musical pitches from your initials? Now the exciting part begins. Let's see what you can do to transform it through imitation or stretching or shortening the note values and build patterns you can use in your composition. String Quartet No. 8 also uses dissonance. And dissonance is when 2 or more notes are played together and create a clashing sound which can be unpleasant or exciting or create other effects depending on how it's used. Dissonance can be created in a few different ways. For example, in a melody, the distance between one note and the next can sound dissonant. Try counting 1 semitone up from your first melody note. This is what's called a minor second. Or try counting up 6 semitones, and this is what's called a tritone. You could have these notes one after the other in a melody, or you could play them at the same time in a chord to create a harsh, clashing and exciting sound. This movement is in the key of G sharp minor. Sometimes Shostakovich uses notes from that scale, for example. But he also uses lots of notes from outside that scale too. When they're played together, that creates the dissonance. So, for an experiment, let's us have a go at this. Here's a scale of C major. Let's create 3 chords from this scale. If you need some help on how to create chords from a scale, take a look at our harmony video or the student resource pack. I'm choosing these 3 chords. It's a G chord, a C chord, and an F chord. Now create a melody that includes notes from outside this scale. Now play them together. chords do you like? What would you change? When could an idea like this be used in your piece? Remember, these are all ideas for you to experiment with in your piece, whether it's using references to war and conflict as inspiration, or bringing together musical ideas from multiple cultures and traditions, or creating musical motifs and developing them, or the use of dissonance. We're really looking forward to hearing what you produce.